Welcome to the Despicable Maine Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into something you might not have seen on your regular news feed, but it could be silently humming away right in your neighborhood,
Mm,
maybe even helping power your home. Chinese-made inverters and batteries, the ones used in, renewable energy
that's right.
infrastructures.
And there's been a bit of a discovery there.
Yeah, our mission today is really to unpack that discovery. Let's call them unexpected extras found inside this equipment.
Extras is one way to put it. Yeah.
And what that could mean for the bigger picture, for
Hmm.
energy security. We're looking at reports of undocumented communication devices found inside these components.
It's definitely raised some eyebrows.
Think of it like this, maybe. You order a fancy new smart fridge, super efficient, looks great,
Okay.
and then you find out it has a secret phone line built in that you didn't know about. That's kind of the situation we're diving into with these energy devices.
That's a rather, well, unsettling analogy, but gets the point across. What's really key here is this recent discovery. These undocumented communication devices found inside Chinese-made solar power inverters and batteries.
Right.
And we really need to explore the implications, the bigger picture, for the security of our renewable energy infrastructure. What does it mean when devices hooked up to our power grids might have hidden capabilities?
Okay, let's unpack this then. So, our sources are telling us US experts, they were basically checking for security issues, doing a bit of a teardown on this hardware.
Standard procedure, really, or it should be, checking what's under the hood.
Exactly, taking apart these Chinese-made solar inverters, batteries. And what they found, it wasn't just the standard collection of wires and silicon, was it?
No, not quite.
Mm.
Over the last 9 months or so, these experts have identified undocumented communication devices. We're talking cellular radios even, inside batteries from multiple Chinese suppliers. And in some solar inverters too.
Cellular radio.
Yeah. And crucially, these parts weren't listed in any product manuals, any spec sheets, nothing.
Wow. It's like finding that secret compartment in something you thought you knew everything about.
Precisely. Or buying a car and finding an extra hidden engine part that wasn't on the blueprint.
Okay, so a hidden radio. Now, for those of us, myself included sometimes, whose electrical knowledge kind of stops at flipping a switch, why is this such a big deal for inverters and batteries? What role do they play?
Well, they're absolutely critical pieces of the puzzle for renewables. Think of inverters as like the universal translator for electricity.
Okay.
They take the raw power from solar panels or wind turbines, which is usually DC, and convert it into AC power that our grid uses, that your house uses.
Got it.
Translator.
And batteries, well, we know what they do, store that energy. But inverters are also key components inside battery systems, and even things like heat pumps, EV chargers. They're becoming ubiquitous in this green energy transition.
So they're kind of the invisible workhorses connecting all this new green tech to the old grid, pretty much. And normally, the utility companies, they're aware of the connection points. They put up digital firewalls.
Right, like digital security guards.
Exactly. To prevent these devices from, say, phoning home to the manufacturer in China without authorization. Obvious security reasons.
Makes sense. You don't want just anyone dialing into your power grid controls.
Correct. It's standard practice to isolate these systems.
But these undocumented devices,
Hmm.
these secret radios, they potentially create a whole new way in, right? Sort of digital side door that bypasses the main security checkpoint.
That's precisely the concern. These rogue components, they create hidden communication pathways. And the worry is that these undocumented channels could potentially allow those firewalls, those security measures, to be bypassed remotely.
Without anyone knowing.
Without the operators
Well,
knowing, yes.
right.
It's like having that secret tunnel that goes right around the main gate security.
Okay, and if someone does use that secret tunnel, that's where it gets, well, scary. What are the stakes here? What could actually happen?
The potential consequences are significant. Experts are warning that if these channels are exploited, someone could, for example, remotely switch off large numbers of inverters simultaneously.
Turn off the power.
Or worse, maybe change their operational settings in a way that destabilizes the grid. Think about suddenly altering the frequency or voltage output from thousands of sources.
Chaos.
It could lead to grid instability, damage to expensive equipment, and potentially, yes, widespread blackouts. One person we look at described it starkly as a built-in way to physically destroy the grid.
Wow. Okay, so forget a squirrel causing an outage. Imagine your whole city goes dark because of a hidden command sent to a tiny chip inside a solar inverter.
It's a sobering scenario. And then you have to layer in the China connection.
Right, because Chinese law requires companies there to cooperate with state intelligence agencies if asked.
That's correct. which naturally raises concerns that, theoretically, the Chinese government could potentially exert some level of control or influence over these devices connected to foreign power grids.
So it's not just some random hacker maybe finding this vulnerability. It's the potential for state-level action. That's a different ballgame.
It adds a geopolitical dimension, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to note, a U.S. Department of Energy spokesperson did say this undocumented functionality may not have malicious intent.
Okay, so maybe it was for diagnostics or something innocent they just forgot to mention.
Perhaps. But even if the intent wasn't malicious, the discovery itself is causing significant concern. Experts and officials are stressing, the absolute need to know the full capabilities of any product plugged into critical infrastructure. The lack of disclosure is the problem, regardless of intent.
Yeah, that makes sense. You need to know what a thing can do, even if it's not doing it right now. I saw Mike Rogers, former NSA director, had an interesting take, too.
Hmm.
He suggested China might be playing a long game, hoping that by getting their inverters so widely adopted, it sort of limits the West's options later on if we do find serious problems. Like, well, you bought millions of them, what are you going to do now?
That's a strategic perspective, certainly. The idea of creating dependence. And it looks like this isn't just a U.S. concern.
Oh, who else is worried?
Well, NATO has apparently noted China's efforts to control critical infrastructure in member states, specifically mentioning inverters, and some countries are already acting.
Like who?
Lithuania passed a law specifically to block remote Chinese access to larger renewable energy installations, solar, wind, battery farms. Estonia has also voiced concerns about, well, potential blackmail down the line if they're too reliant.
Blackmail. Wow. So this is definitely resonating globally. What about back here in the U.S.? Are utilities changing their buying habits? Is policy catching up?
There seems to be a reassessment happening, yes. Some utilities are reportedly trying to minimize their use of Chinese inverters, looking for alternatives. It's not always easy given the market dynamics, but the effort is there. And Paul, there's a proposed bill, for instance,
Yeah.
that would ban the Department of Homeland Security from buying batteries from certain major Chinese manufacturers, citing national security.
Yeah.
So yes, there's movement, but it's complex.
And part of that complexity must be the sheer scale of China's dominance here, right? They make a lot of these things.
Oh, absolutely. That's an understatement. Chinese companies dominate the global inverter market. Huawei, despite some market restrictions in the U.S., is still the world's largest supplier overall. And you have SunGrow, Yidlon Solis, major players.
So swapping them out isn't simple.
Not at all. And experts point out, with the amount of renewable capacity rapidly growing on Western grids, this dependency and the potential vulnerability it brings is much more critical than it might have seemed even, say, 10 years ago.
More connections, more potential points of failure or compromise.
Exactly. And there was actually a recent incident that kind of brought this home.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Just last November, apparently, solar power inverters in the U.S. and some other places were disabled
Remotely.
from China.
Seriously.
Disabled? Yes. Details are a bit scarce, but the event definitely caused concern among government officials. It served as a pretty stark real-world example of this potential risk foreign influence over domestic electricity supply.
Wow. Okay, that's not theoretical then. That actually happened. So what's being done? What's the path forward? Just hope for the best.
Well, hopefully not just hope. The Department of Energy says it's working on things like software bill of materials, basically demanding more transparency from manufacturers about exactly what's inside their products, software, and hardware.
Like an ingredients list for tech?
Kind of, yeah, to get a better handle on the components. But security analysts also point out the energy sector might be lagging behind, say, telecoms, where regulations addressing concerns about Chinese equipment dominance are maybe more established. And there's another issue. Often these security requirements only kick in for larger installations above a certain size threshold. Meaning potentially millions of smaller, like household solar systems might fly under the regulatory radar when it comes to these specific security checks.
Right, so the big utility scale stuff might get checked, but the system on your neighbor's roof maybe doesn't face the same scrutiny.
That's a potential gap, yes. So there's a need for more comprehensive security, maybe more adaptive measures.
Okay. So it really seems like we've stumbled into a pretty complex area here. It's not just about getting clean energy online. It's making sure the tech doing it is secure and, frankly, trustworthy.
That sums it up well. Finding these undocumented devices really highlights the hidden complexities. In our increasingly interconnected world, vulnerabilities can lurk inside technologies we rely on for something as fundamental as electricity.
Yeah. It's a definite reminder that the push for cleaner energy, which is obviously crucial,
He was
also
scared.
brings brand new security challenges we need to tackle head on.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? As we embrace all this fantastic renewable energy technology, how do you ensure the infrastructure powering our future isn't also creating potential backdoors for those who might not have our best interests at heart? Something to think about.
Indeed. A lot to consider there. Thanks for tuning in to the Despicable Maine Deep Dive.